today. Just want to talk to you a little bit about Miles and how he's doing in the class. So, Miles is a super bright kid, and he's always so eager to participate in class and answer questions when he has a great idea, which is always happening. He's always raising his hand, always just jumping with joy, just so excited to answer questions for us. He loves being a part of the class. Um, you can really tell he loves the attention in the class. There are some times when he may act like he doesn't really want any attention, but you can see that's kind of his way of trying to get a little bit more attention than normal. Miles does have a hard time focusing sometimes, though. He has his days where he doesn't really want to do what the rest of the class is doing and will refuse to listen. These are usually days when he's a little down on himself, but he's still such a happy boy to be around with other students. You can tell he loves his peers in the classroom because he's always with someone new, trying to make them laugh and smile. His classmates absolutely adore him. Whenever there's group work, there's always multiple kids in the class that want to work with him. Sometimes when he's a little down, he will kind of want to be by himself, but most of the time he is super willing to work with them, and he gets so excited and so motivated and just so excited about the project. And it helps him focus so much when he has the other students around. So, I mean, his peers are a big influence on him, and it's amazing. So, I did a few assessments with Miles over the past few weeks just to see kind of where he's at with his reading and writing. I had him read me a few stories so I could see the rate he's reading at. I also had him tell me about the stories after he read them. I'd have him tell me what happened in the beginning, in the middle, the end, what was the problem, how was the problem resolved. I also took some writing samples from him. I would just work with him while he's writing in his journal, or if he was writing about a nonfiction piece. Like one day he wrote about the Titanic. I looked over that. So I just wanted to see how his sentence structure was, how he was working with like periods and capital letters and that kind of thing. I also did a little bit of spelling with him just to see where he is at with like his letters and stuff and letter sounds and if he was recognizing them. I also did one last one to see kind of how he's recognizing his letter sounds. I wanted to see if like I gave him some like kind of unusual words, if he'd be able to decode the sounds of the letters or just like make up his own word. Just kind of wanted to see what he would do with that. Just have a little fun. Which it was super fun. He was laughing his head off doing those because he was like, I don't know what half these words are. So this really helped me see his comfort level and familiarity with reading and writing. I talked with Miles about what he thought of himself as a reader as well, and he is a very, very confident child in his reading. When I asked him, I was like, what do you think you are as a reader on a scale from 1 to 5? And he was like, well, I'm not perfect, so most definitely a 4. So he thinks he's an amazing reader, which I mean, you could totally see it when he reads. He is so confident and he is a great reader. I mean, the fact that he is a confident child keeps him motivated, and he is continuing to grow in the classroom, which is amazing. I love watching him grow. A few strengths that I have seen in Miles is, first off, his level of comprehension is amazing. Like, I am amazed at like how he can just pinpoint details in a story. Every time I would ask, every time after he'd read me a story, I'd ask him questions. I'd say, who are the characters? What happened in the beginning? What was the problem? And how was the problem fixed? And who fixed the problem? And every time he would go to the first page and he'd show me all the pictures of who the characters were, and then he'd be like, here's the problem. And he'd be like, oh wait, I remember what page it talked about the problem. Flip to that page. And then I would be like, what happened in the end? And he would be like, oh, here's what happened in the end. And then he'd show me the picture and be like, see, look, that's what happened. And so he knew exactly what happened. He knew exactly where it was in the book. I noticed he did a lot of decoding with pictures in the book beforehand. He would look at the pictures to kind of get an idea what was going on in the book. So that helped him understand the words a little bit better, which I thought was an amazing thing. Like I said before, he is a very, very confident child, which honestly I love. It's amazing. So he rates himself very high as a reader. On a scale from 1 to 5, he is a 4, which I completely agree with. He really did very well with his reading. He has his certain techniques that he likes to use to help him learn and figure out words. He always sounds out words. That's the one thing he told me. I asked him something that he did when he got stuck on a word. He said, I sound out words. And then I asked him if someone helps him read, and he said, my teacher will help me read, and she helps me sound out words. So that is just his skill, and like he does do that very well. He will go through, if there's words he doesn't know, he will stop and sound out each letter, put it together, figure out how it works, look at me for confirmation. But then like if I say no, he's like, no, I'm right, I sounded it out. He's confident in what he thinks. I mean, I'm so proud of that. Another thing he is very strong in is his punctuation. Right now at this age, it's kind of hard with punctuation to remember to like add the period at the end of the sentence and then capitalize the beginning of the next sentence. He always remembers to put his periods. I think he just likes to draw little circles, but he just loves to add his periods. If he forgets, you'll like notice him like stop in the middle of a sentence and go back and add the period. Or he'll start writing the next word and it's a capital and he'll realize he brought the period, so he'll go back. He always remembers. So these are his strengths, but I mean, like, you can always be improving on things. So just some things to like kind of like help just keeping him in the flow and just constantly improving just to keep growing. For his comprehension, some things we can be working on at school is practicing making predictions. I think that'll help a lot with comprehension. I mean, he's already very well at comprehending, but I think like making predictions will get him thinking about it more. So it's just like a natural thing. So like during read alouds, a lot of the time I will stop and ask questions to see like to get them thinking about the story more. At home, I think something to help him with his comprehension is make connections to the stories we read during the day. He can find maybe 3 things a day that connect back to the story that we read. Just so he's continually thinking about it and thinking about what he read, so he's remembering things. For his confidence, I think something that can help, that helps anyone, is interactive reading, where they're kind of part of the story that I read out. I read aloud, so like we'll have like a big book, and the students can help me read it. This just allows him to be himself and read and just have fun with it. And I think the fact that he can have fun with it will help his confidence and just keep him happy about reading and having fun with it. For things at home, I think something just super important is to make sure that there are books around that are on his level, because if he's reading books that are too high above his level, it might bring down his confidence because it's too hard for him. So you want it on his level, so he is learning the things he needs to. He's comfortable, maybe pushed a little bit, but like the confidence will come when he knows he can do it. As for punctuation, we'll do interactive writing in class, and this just also helps him like be part of it and be guided through it. In interactive writing, we will practice punctuation so he can just keep learning more punctuation and getting better at it, so he can keep adding more and more punctuation to his writing. Done. Okay, and so for at home with punctuation, I think something that can go along with this is just having those reading books on his level, so or just books in general, so he can see punctuation, and just like letting him write at home, or just anything that allows sentence structure at home, I think will help because he can just see it, like have that model. So that will be something super important. So he has many, many strengths in the classroom, which are continuing to grow and is amazing. But there are a few things that he's struggling with that I just want to bring to your attention. So one thing is he has a very hard time with distinguishing some of his letters. I've noticed him get his lowercase b's and d's mixed up quite a bit lately. In his journal, I'll be reading over it and I'll see a D where a B should be or a B where a D should be. And there was one day where he was reading to me and it was a book about a bear, but he looked at it and thought it said deer. So he just got that a little confused. But then as soon as he looked at the picture, he was like, oh, it's a bear. So then he put it together. And when I was doing my spelling test with him, he would mix up the letters a few times. So if it was supposed to say blade, it said like, it just confused. So the B was where the D was, the D was where the B was. He also did it with the word big. He wrote dig instead. So I mean, it still made sense, but it's just something that can still be worked on. So at school, for some stuff we can do to help him with that, it's just help give him strategies to understand the difference and see the difference. We can help, so with those strategies, we can help him recognize what the letter is and the word that the letter is in. So if we're doing a guided reading group, maybe we can make a lesson specifically on recognizing those letters and sounds in the words that we see in the book. So he can keep practicing making the correct sounds with me there to guide him. I can have him identify the sounds. Then he can say the word and tell me if it makes sense in a sentence. At home, something that might help is singing songs or maybe nursery rhymes. And while doing that, maybe have like a printed copy of, or just like a visual of what the words are. So he can just have that practice over and over, repeating the words, getting used to the words, and seeing the print with it. So he can understand this word goes with what that looks like. Something else that can be worked on a little bit is writing incomplete sentences or writing complete thoughts. He is very good at getting his thoughts out, but not always in a complete sentence. He would kind of in like fragments of what he's thinking. So if he wants to say something like, my brother is a linebacker on his football team, which he's tried to write in his journal before, it would end up saying something like, my brother is on football team and linebacker. So he would kind of forget some words and kind of phrase it in a different way. So you could understand what he was trying to say, but it was not a complete sentence, so it wouldn't get a full point on the assessment that I gave him for his writing. So on a scale from like 1 to 3, it was probably getting around a 2 because the idea was most definitely there. It just was not the correct structure. So he's getting very, very close with it. So in class, we can practice making complete sentences, which is something that is a focus at this age. So something that I can have the students do is they can make sentences on a strip, and then they can read them to each other, and then after we'll cut them up and another student will have to remake the sentence. So this can help Miles see all the parts that are needed to be in the sentence. So he can just see how it's structured and see all the necessary things there needs to be. At home, you can have Miles copy things you say, or if there's something that he says that's not in a complete sentence, restate it in the correct way so he can hear how it's supposed to be. Modeling is just going to help him so much. So if you can just model how things should be said, or have him practice copy you, that modeling is going to make a huge difference. Miles really is such a fun boy to have in the class. He keeps everyone laughing and smiling all the time. It is just so fun seeing that light in his eyes. And like when he learns something new, he just gets so excited about it when it finally clicks. Um, he has a great determination, and it's so fun seeing him grow. So thank you.